Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Tate for another episode of the Untitled Monthly Movie Show. We're up to May, and this is I guess we can say the chilled out stream where we get to talk about what we've been watching this month, anything that comes up. But yeah, how are we doing tonight? It's very sunny. It doesn't feel like it's 8 o'clock on a weekend.
Yeah, no, doing good. It's been a very sports heavy weekend, less film focused and film based. So my mind at the moment is in sports, and if that hasn't been shown by kind of what I'm wearing, I'll talk about why I'm wearing this in a bit. But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm ready to talk about kind of the films that I've seen this month because it was a bit of a weird one, bit of an eclectic mix.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to last month as well, I don't think either of us watched too many. I think I'd seen the least, but certainly
Yeah,
this month, like unintentionally, I've just been able to watch a lot more than I have recently, which is kind of good as well because it means we can do this properly.
yeah, and I've been reasonably busy this month, but managed to get through 15 films in the end. So. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's completely all over the place. I think I've got two new releases, I guess three if you're counting films from this year. So it'll be very interesting to see kind of, what you think of the films I've watched and kind of how it's gone all over the place.
No, same here. And there's a bit of a theme of mine. You'll be able to figure out once I start going through them. But for everybody watching at home, everyone that might be on the live stream or joining us later on, do let us know what you've been watching this month. Do get involved. We do these streams once a month. It's normally the last weekend of each month. We know it's not the last day of May, but life gets in the way. We can't always be there on the last day of the month. I think we were for April. I think we had Sarah on, which was
Yeah.
great. But as always, do get involved. There's a lot of things happening on the channel. We've had a bit of a quiet April, quiet May, a quiet mid-April as well. Things are getting back on track. It's summer blockbuster season. There's been a lot of new films out. There's a lot more coming out in June. We'll probably end up talking about one or two of the very big ones. One of them coming out on Thursday. So do get involved. And if you want to help support the channel, you can, of course, follow us on other websites. You can get us on Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook, Letterboxd.com/cinema_savvy, with a link to Redbubble in that description below. But before we get into this, Tate, I'm just going to not put you on the spot. We're going to plug something for tomorrow. We've both been watching Succession. It finishes tonight. It is without doubt the best series on TV at the moment. I'm more than happy to say right now, if they nail it tonight, it will go down as one of the best shows ever made. And I think it will stand that test of time very easily. But we're going to be live tomorrow night with a Succession. I guess we can say season 4 spoiler review, but it's more of a reviewer discussion on Succession. We weren't around for seasons 1, 2, and 3 when they were airing. We've both watched it since season 3 aired. We've both been watching this every week. So that's going to be pretty fun. And just in terms of what I'm watching, that's probably the best thing I've seen this month. Not that there's any discredit on a lot of films I've watched, which are going to surprise people. But yeah, just your thoughts on season 4 so far for anyone at
home. Yeah, without kind of spoiling it too much, it's been fantastic. Top tier television. I mean, let's be real here. It's HBO. HBO have been knocking out the park recently, even with franchises that we thought were kind of dead in the water, like Game of Thrones, which they kind of did not end well with its original run. House of the Dragon did amazing this year. The Last of Us was fantastic this year. We've got this as well on top of that. It seems to be like they're just knocking everything out of the park. I haven't seen White Lotus yet. I hear that's meant to be very good as well. So always high quality stuff coming from HBO, and this one will go down as one of their all-time classics.
No, 100% with you on that. And it's still ridiculous to say that it's from the creator of Peep Show, which I've never been able to get over since I first heard about it. We've got Aaron in the comments. Guys, The Galaxy 3 is probably the best new release I've seen in May. Oh, that's a very good question. I would agree. I mean, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first? Because the first film I watched was Guardians, actually.
I mean, I guess you should go first then, because mine was my 4th or 5th film that I watched this month.
Okay, so we've got a review on the channel. We did it as soon as it came out in the UK, 3rd of May. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I had a very quiet April, but I knew that May would be a bit different. The schedule's got a bit lighter, and I'll be able to watch a lot more films. So, talking Guardians very quickly, it's been we did that on the day. I've absolutely loved it since. I've not seen it a second time. I think I'm going to wait till the Blu-ray still. I love the writing. I'm a big fan of James Gunn. Ironically, there's some stuff actually going around today about the writer's strikes and the lack of silence from the head of the new DCU studio chairman with all the Warner Brothers aggro kicking off. But I know it's only been less than a month, but I absolutely love this. It's right up there, probably in the top 5 of what I've seen this year so far. I'm not as up to date with my 2023 list, but I love the fact that Dog Days Are Over has become. There's a really terrible comparison. So Stranger Things came out a year ago yesterday, or a year ago today.
Yeah, Stranger Things 4 with Running Up That Hill.
Yeah, some people are trying to say it's this year's Running Up That Hill, and I'm not.
I remember when it came out, so it's like not even.
It's incomparable. It's just, listen, kids, I'm not good with music. I've discovered a lot of music through films. Just because a very popular song is in a film that you've enjoyed and watched, it doesn't need to compare to the last time. Very, very different songs, musics, eras, everything ridiculous. Stop the comparisons. But Dog Days Are Over, one of the best needle drops of the last couple of years, I will say. And then sort of following Guardians. So actually, one thing I want to say, aside from 2 films, the 3 films including last night, every single film I've seen this month is a new watch, not a rewatch. Some are old films, some are new films, and I've tried to get a bit of counterbalance between 2023 releases and films I own like behind me that have sat there for years I've never been able to watch. So there's a lot of new watches. Obviously, I'm not doing reviews for all of them, but I don't know if you've seen this. On the 5th, I watched The Guests, the Dan Stevens one.
No, I haven't. No.
The Bond fans, like Dan Stevens has always been one of those names on the Bond rumor mill. And I think he's still low key enough that people haven't heard of him outside of specific fans of films. Ironically, in a Disney live action remake, which we'll talk about another one later on. But everyone always spoke about The Guest, and I watched it and knew nothing about it. I just knew it was this sort of John Wick-esque vibe that all talk about it. It was not that. It was very, very different, and he was pretty great in it. And it is one of those films you can see this is this actor's Bond audition. So The Guest, I enjoyed. And then followed it up with Shazam, Fury of the Gods, the sequel. Not a fan. Finally watched it. As I said, it's a 2023 release. I need to, as much as I dislike these current DC films, I'd still like to watch them just so that I have seen them and I can at least be involved in the, not like shitting on it for the sake of shitting on it, but when people saying they hate a film or some say they like it, that makes me more curious. But Shazam 2, not a fan. Same night, I wanted to make up for it. It was a Saturday, the 6th. I then watched Rain Man for the first time. Which
you've never seen Rain Man?
I'd never seen Rain Man. I've heard Hans Zimmer do the theme live in his concerts.
Yeah,
I knew about Rain Man. I obviously knew who was in it. I knew what it was about. I just never
you're on the Tom Cruise hype train.
Yeah, that's going to be the theme. So I really liked it. I struggled at the start. The first half, I was like, I don't know if I like this. And I'm not trying to do some like young modern thing like, oh, it's inaccurate or it's unfair. No, I wasn't sure if I was liking the film or any of the characters. And then by the time it got to the ending, I was properly invested. I really liked Rain Man. But yeah, the Tom Cruise hype has come in this month. I've got a lot of films of his I've not seen. I'm trying to get through. I then watched Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I didn't like it.
You didn't?
I really liked Hugh Grant and Chris Pine. I think this is the moment for me where I've just accepted that fantasy films aren't for me.
Well, this is the question, because this was like I'll go into it a little bit more when I saw it, but I really enjoyed it, and maybe that's because I've played Dungeons and Dragons before.
I'm in the minority. A lot of people I know really like this film.
Yeah,
I just couldn't get into it, and I couldn't get not invested in the characters. I just don't think it was for me. It's not one where I'm gonna sort of moan. It's just watching it. It's not my thing, and I'm just saying, is it fantasy? Because I've always struggled with fantasy as a genre. Not to discredit fantasy, but it's the classic sci-fi fantasy divide, isn't it? That people seem to be on overall. But yeah, so Dungeons and Dragons wasn't a big fan. I then ticked off something which blew up a bit on Twitter, which I didn't expect. For the first time, I saw Speed, the Keanu Reeves film. There's a lot of films I'm going through I haven't seen that I've wanted to watch.
How?
There was an offer on Zavi. It was like £3 for £30 on 4K, and it was one of the ones I picked up. And I've always wanted to watch it. I just never had. I've not watched Speed 2 though. I've heard Speed 2.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen Speed 2. I feel like we need to compile a list of films that we haven't seen that we definitely should have seen at this point.
Well, this is it. But how do you do those lists? Like some people do the IMDb top 250.
Yeah.
Letterboxd have their own spin on it now, which is in the stats pages for people at home. But then you've got like Academy Award winners. You've got it's like because Speed, it's not a cult film. It's too popular to be a cult film, but it's an unbelievable action film.
Maybe you could do it based on not even genre, but you could do it based on the highest grossing films of all time, possibly.
But it wouldn't be anywhere near there, though, would it? That's the thing. Like, it was amazing.
Adjusted, it probably made a lot of money.
And also, as a big con head from the Succession talk, I knew that Keanu was in it. Obviously, I knew that Sandra Bullock was in it. I didn't know that Alan Rook was. I was like, what a perfect way to bring it. I think I saw it like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, so it was just after a Succession watch. And he is my favorite of the Roy family. And then on the 11th, ticked off another one. Jerry Maguire had never seen it. You know me, I like my sports films. It really does become a Tom Cruise movie, if I'm not lying.
Yeah, I was going to say that's two things right there. Like, first of all, I can't believe you've never seen Jerry Maguire, but at the same time, okay, it makes sense if you're doing a Tom Cruise. I just need to know. Have you seen Risky Business?
No. It's on the list.
It'll probably be watched before the next.
I've got a few more of his. That I did see. You'll be surprised at 2 films I've seen. I'm almost at one of them.
Okay.
Loved Jerry Maguire. Didn't like the romance side of it, but liked the sports side of it. The agency stuff, and I think is very. Yeah, me and you are both in sports, right? I know American sports works different to football, but the whole like agent thing. I always love watching like films where like 25 years ago, it's still the exact same thing today. How agencies look after players, etc., etc. I really enjoyed that. Then on the Friday the 12th, I watched Peter Pan and Wendy. Yeesh.
How was that film?
I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. However, I have never cared about, except for Hook, which is probably because it's Robin Williams, probably because I grew up with Spielberg.
Yeah.
I've never cared about Peter Pan. As a kid, the story, I didn't care. I didn't care about Neverland. I didn't care about anything. So I'm going into it. And I think from what I'd read from people, because it came out, when did it come out? Like March or something? March or April? It's been out a few weeks.
No, I want to say it came out April. I don't think it came out in May.
Yeah, I wasn't new to it. It'd been on Disney for a while. And I just thought, I'd heard a lot of people saying that they really liked the direction, and some people I follow were talking about the director saying that it felt like it's the first time a director's been able to do all these live action reboots. It didn't feel like a reboot as such, but it did feel like a direct-to streaming film. Here's the budget. You're in a studio. Here's like 3 locations. Get it on Disney Plus. Get it done.
Did they do it through the thing they do the Mandalorian through the what's it called?
The volume. I don't know. I don't know if it's shot in America or here, but there is certainly large. I'm hoping there was at least a boat to do the boat stuff practically, but it felt like if they're on a set, it's a small set and there's a lot of green screens if it's not the volume. And again, this is the whole, I know that's on the news this week about Disney removing films off Disney Plus now. They're doing the Warner Brothers thing.
They're removing loads of things off Disney Plus.
Yeah. And modern stuff, things. I mean, the Jeff Goldblum show, like that launched Disney Plus. That was one of their like big subscription things at the get go. It's very weird. But how does one recover from Peter Pan and Wendy? On Saturday the 13th, I watched Born on the 4th of July.
Wow,
phenomenal.
I haven't seen Born on the 4th of July. That's one that I need to tick off.
Paul Klein, who's on our Mission Impossible on Tuesday, who's been on a lot of our stuff. He's always called it Tom Cruise's Top Gun apology. Now, I don't know if you know the politics. I don't want to quote it word for word, but you can find articles back in the late 80s where Tom Cruise actually criticizes Top Gun, which is insane to think now, not just because of last year, but just with what that film done for his career. A lot of people have called Born on the 4th of July Tom Cruise's Top Gun apology. I think that's very unfair. But this is obviously, it's a Vietnam film. It's Oliver Stone, so it's pretty deep. I didn't realize it's based off real life, which kind of made it more haunting. And is it Tom Cruise's best performance? It's probably in a top 5. If I was to try and do a top 5, if I'd seen them all. Incredible.
Tropic Thunder has to be number 1, right?
Tropic Thunder. Honestly, I didn't. I've not watched Tropic Thunder this month, but I ordered it off Amazon today because for some reason I went to watch it today. I don't actually own it. I was like, how do I not own Tropic Thunder? I think it's one of the greatest comedies of all time. Genuinely. Like, no joke aside. Like, Perfect. So that was Born for That's a pretty intense. It's like 2 hours 40, I think. It was very intense. And then followed it up with a documentary. I don't know if you've seen it this month, and this was really a really good documentary. Apple's done a documentary on Michael J. Fox. It came out this month. It's called Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. It's not like a biopic. It's a documentary about Michael J. Fox. Now he's doing the whole thing himself. This isn't someone saying, "Here, learn this about him." This is him to camera. Talking about growing up, talking about his breakthrough, Back to the Future, and of course his battle with Parkinson's. A very eye-opening documentary. I thought it was really good. It was quite emotional. I'm not the biggest Back to the Future fan, as people will know, but I can understand. I mean, for me as a kid, I actually didn't know he was Stuart Little until I watched the documentary, which is really bad because I grew up with Stuart Little, and the kid from Jerry Maguire is in Stuart Little as well. But I understand why, to a certain demographic or to people, like, he just not disappeared, but I'd always think of him as Back to the Future. And obviously he had a massive TV career as well, but maybe for me growing up in the ages we are, because we didn't see him in a lot of things, because obviously he'd been diagnosed with it and whatnot. It's quite a powerful documentary, and there's a lot of things of Parkinson's that I didn't know about, which it sort of educates you on. So I'd really recommend it to people. As I really rate Apple Plus. I've still got it as a subscription service. They've got great films, great TV. Didn't watch Ghosted, thank God. But yeah, that's one where that's quite eye-opening. And on the same day as that, I watched Fantastic Mr. Fox, the Wes Anderson, Roald Dahl adaptation.
Good.
And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Wes Anderson makes good films.
No, I'm not saying. I like Roald Dahl growing up, right? And I'd never seen it. I've got a friend at work who's like a massive Fantastic Mr. Fox fan. And I think we were talking about the new one coming out. And when I always like a film when I'm doing the ironing. 1 hour, 30 minutes, perfect runtime, stop motion animation, respect the craft. I really enjoyed it. I thought I would. I've not seen Isle of Dogs yet.
I prefer Fantastic Mr. Fox to Isle of Dogs. I've only seen Isle of Dogs once and I just couldn't get into it. But I've seen Fantastic Mr. Fox multiple times, and maybe that's because I was raised on Roald Dahl, and I knew Fantastic Mr. Fox as a story, really loved it when I was a kid, so maybe that translated across.
Yeah, I mean, I know Asteroid City's coming out, isn't it? And then he's got the Roald Dahl film
later on this year.
Later this year, no date yet, but I think everyone can guess what festival it will probably open in London in October. Netflix, Roald Dahl, British. Makes sense. So yeah, I really enjoyed Miss Fantastic. Honestly, had a lot of fun with it. Then I watched on the 18th Operation Fortune Rooster Gurr, which was the Guy Ritchie one. Yeah, and it was the very heavily delayed one because of the Ukrainian gangsters. He's churned out like 3 films apparently in a year, and all of them have had weird delays and not delays, and it's very strange. Didn't like it that much.
No, I watched it last month, and it was a Guy Ritchie film.
Some funny bits.
Yeah,
I liked Hugh Grant, same as Dungeons and Dragons. This is very much
having like an evil renaissance. I love it.
Yeah, it's very much like Hugh Grant. Like, that character you play in The Gentleman. Yeah, just come and do it in another film, and that's exactly what it was. And I was like, I'll take that. Like, I know he's taking on The Sun and the Papers again, which is great. But I mean, I've not seen Paddington 2, but post Paddington 2, it seems, as you said, like Hugh Grant is doing a lot. Maybe not more films, not maybe more commercial films, but I think that very. Not stereotype. I mean, he was like the rom-com heartthrob, right?
Yeah.
And I like the fact he's embracing other roles as down the line, which is great.
I'm going to put it out there. Cloud Atlas was his turning point. That was the first time he played like 6 different characters, and I would recommend Cloud Atlas. I like Cloud Atlas. I know the Wachowskis get a lot of stick, but
it's original though. What is a book adaptation? Isn't it?
It's a book adaptation. It was a book adaptation of a book that they literally said it would be unadaptable, and they actually adapted it half decent. So
that's what they do now.
Yeah.
So then, you ready for this? On the 18th, I really enjoyed Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'm going to go watch another Wes Anderson film. I watched The Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah. You didn't like it, did you?
No, I didn't like it.
I was going to say, of all the Wes Anderson films, it's one which isn't as bright and vibrant. It's very character focused. It's not as quirky as his normal stuff. It's not as aesthetically pleasing as his normal stuff. It's very spiritual. It felt like
an extended episode of Arrested Development. but I just wasn't enjoying it. I like Ben Stiller in a lot of things, and that's why I was drawn to it. I was on Disney Plus. There was like 3 Wes Anderson films in a row.
Well, it's
I was like,
Ben, what was it? It's Adrian Brody. It's Jason Schwartzman. It's
the usual suspects.
Great cast.
Owen Wilson. All of them are in it. Luke Wilson. Yeah. So I didn't watch a third one this month. Then on the 19th, you can catch our review on the channel. I had the honor of watching Fast X, one of the most ridiculous, insane films ever made. It was honestly one of the most entertaining experiences of the year. They always are. They're so stupid. They're fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Haven't gone back and rewatched it. I watched them once at the cinema, and then I'll wait for the next one. Whether the next one's the last one, none of us know. But Fast X was very fun. And then on Saturday the 20th, here's my 2 rewatches. Last Saturday, I watched Mission Impossible 1. The review's going to be out on Tuesday. Loved it. Sunday, I don't know if you've rewatched this yet. I rewatched Spider-Verse. I know I'm a bit early.
I also rewatched Spider-Verse this month as well. So
yeah, we'll talk about it maybe a little bit more when you get to it. But 2 films, rewatched those 2. Then Thursday, again, Apple. I heard a lot of good stuff about Tetris. I don't know if you've heard about it or...
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Taron Egerton, who I absolutely love as an actor, struggled with the accent because he sounds exactly like Leo in Wolf of Wall Street, playing an entrepreneur as well. I thought it was fine. I didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of other people. It's very watchable, but it's also a bit on the nose, like, Russia in the 80s, bad. Oh, look, not the Murdoch family. What was the old? What's the nonce Maxwell? That's the Maxwells. It's got the Maxwells in. Okay. Oh, Maxwell's bad. Yeah, we've kind of figured this one out. So Tetris is interesting, and the story behind it is very interesting. But the film itself, I think people would enjoy it. It's a very different film to be made. So credit for them for making that into a film. Also, pre-Mario means we're getting an actual like Tetris film about the making of it, not like here's Tetris, but it's characters when it's blocks. I don't know. So that was Thursday. That was weird. Friday, I watched for the first time Magnolia. I have heard so much about Magnolia over the years. Some say it's Tom Cruise's best performance. I mean, Paul Thomas, I've not seen all of his films, but it's very much multiple different storylines. Some of them are going to merge, some of them aren't, all set across one day. Very not depressing film, but it's about sort of loneliness and forgiveness and thankfulness is sort of I guess you could say that. And again, watching Tom Cruise films, he's great in it. It's always one of the roles people talk about with him because it's one of the ones where he's really out of his comfort zone.
I was going to say, I've heard that it's a very different performance by him, and I haven't watched it myself, but I've heard very good things about it.
I mean, his run in the 90s, the films I've been watching of his this month, right? A lot of it's 90s. And I think a lot will say that's his best decade for acting for performances, which I think they're very, very fair to and probably correct in saying. And it's before we're getting back to the mid-noughties Tom Cruise Renaissance action sequences. But I kind of miss seeing these performances from him. Now, post Dead Reckoning Part 2, who knows? Maybe we will get stuff like this again. But now also the joke from Knives Out makes sense because when they do the flashbacks, they have Ed Norton dressed up as Tom Cruise's character from Magnolia, and the inside joke is he thought he was in on it, which was love Magnolia. Been thinking about it a lot. John C. Reilly, amazing in it as well, got to say, and Julianne Moore. So that was Friday. Yesterday, I rewatched Mission Impossible 2 because we're recording that on Tuesday. You'll find out on the 6th of June our thoughts on that one. The second one's an experience, and then this morning, I've tagged it as watching it. I went to the cinema to watch The Little Mermaid remake. And I know you've not seen it yet. I walked out after 45 minutes. However, me and Tayte were chatting before. I didn't walk out because I hated the film. Because I've sat through a lot worse at the cinema. Got through it, sat through it, plodded on with the day. It was something about this today where I was just completely... I don't know if I wasn't in the right mind to be at the cinema. I just don't know if I just wasn't vibing with the film. But it just reached a point where I thought, you know what? I'm done here today. I just stood up and walked out. Now, thankfully, I hadn't bought a drink. So it saved me having like a massive walk around Resort World with like a massive bottle of Pepsi. Managed to get into the Nike store, 30% off. Did a bit of shopping, maybe it's therapy, who knows. But I just couldn't. I got my phone out, and I never get my phone out of the cinema.
Mm.
And I just checked the time. I was like, this has only been on for 40 minutes. It's 2 hours and 15 total. Now, I know the original is an hour and a half. I get, when they do these adaptations, they get a bit longer. 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes longer than the original. Okay, I can live with that. But not when I checked, it only been on 40 minutes. I was really like not vibing. And I'll say this before anyone jumps in, like Hal Bailey is without a doubt the only good thing in that film from what I've been watching. I know a lot of critics have said she's the best thing overall. Everything else is crap around her. From the 40 minutes I saw, I'm kind of with it. Javier Bardem, no idea what he's doing in this film. Absolutely love Javier Bardem, but I'll be excited come November with Dune. Melissa McCarthy, didn't get enough scenes from her. Again, I only watched it for 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure Melissa McCarthy will be great. I think that's one of the things I was looking forward to. But I was saying to Tate, I physically couldn't cope watching Sebastian the Crab and Flounder. And it's not like Uncanny Valley creepy. It's not, oh, we're animating fish. It's also not what I thought it would be. Avatar 2 was so well done. I can't cope with anyone else trying to do underwater filming this crap. I just had to get out. And it was during Under the Sea when I just got up and went.
Do you think, because I was going to say, I didn't realize the runtime was that long. That's got to be quite off-putting for, kids. This is a kids' movie. I know that modern-day studios want to make movies that the kids can enjoy, the parents can enjoy as well, but also there's the nostalgia factor, which is the only reason why they're remaking the film. They're not remaking it to, oh, look at all these wonderful new fans we'll get of this film that we made back way in the day. No. It's all about that nostalgic factor. Does that alienate the audience purely out of the fact that, it's going to be a longer film? It's not for the same target demographic that the original film was for. You're updating a lot of things that people hold precious. And I know we've had this problem with the previous kind of Disney live action remakes, and I'm not a fan of them. There's one or two which are good. The rest of them have been awful or poorly made or fantastically made in the case of Lion King, but so kind of misplaced and zero emotion in the film at all. Like it feels like all of the film's souls have been stripped away in a lot of these, and especially from last year with Pinocchio. That film was soulless. Yeah. That film was so soulless. I'm wondering now, I personally, I was given the choice. Do I want to go see The Little Mermaid? Do I kind of want to waste half of my Sunday or even half of my Saturday going to see it? And I decided against it. I decided to just stay at home and chill for once, instead of going out to the cinema to go and watch it. And I'm kind of happy I did. This is, I feel like you can at least forgive Pinocchio for the fact that it was straight onto Disney Plus, and you have the choice of it just being online and just being a one-off watch. Yeah. Whereas this, if it's coming out into the cinemas, it's a longer thing. I'm sure the production's great behind it. I'm sure there are things that are really good about it. I'm sure there are. But, I'm so damn tired of these live action remakes and ones that are just not to the highest quality possible. It's
a good question. It's tricky because Pinocchio, I thought, was everything that's wrong with the internet era. It was made there's nothing wrong with something being made for streaming, but where it gets wrong is it's made for content. And I hate the word. I mean, we use words like content, right? But when you're doing YouTube channels and shit, we can, because we're not making TV or film. When companies refer to films as content, I mean, the Warner Brothers stuff on Monday, them getting rid of the directors and crew sections on their new streaming service and calling it creators. And Scorsese's not at the top of Taxi Driver, which led to the Directors Guild releasing statements alongside the other guilds and talking of them going on strike just for Warner Brothers, being Warner Brothers. The CEO of Warner Brothers getting booed at a public event where he was there to, they give actors or high ups here, have a degree. You're not studying, but just have a degree. He got booed. The CEO of Warner Brothers getting booed at an event like that. The Little Mermaid one's weird because, as I said, I was going after 45 minutes. And I thought Hal Bailey was great. And it's a really tricky question to answer because you have to sort of begin with how and why did it enter production? That's always my thing. When did this come in? And I believe Little Mermaid came in like before like the mid-10s. Like they wanted to do it, but they just couldn't get around to doing it. Now Rob Marshall
would they have launched with this one then? That's my question.
Well, this is it because so the way I've seen it, I know we've probably seen a video before. Cinderella, I think that was always going to get made.
Yeah.
Oh God, I've
but
forgotten.
It's so interesting because like films like Cinderella make sense because a lot of the characters in that
it's a traditional fairy tale.
Human. It's traditional fairy tale. It makes sense. Films like Peter Pan and Wendy even make sense purely out of purely
too many of them. No, but yeah, it's a fairy tale, public domain.
It's a fairy tale. All the characters are human, or at least like there's a lot of human characters based in there. Like even Pinocchio, you could make a case for it making sense.
We've had a good one last year, just not the Disney.
Yeah, one. It's like the Wooden Boys, so you can take a lean angle with that. But some of these just make no sense. I still question Lion King, why that was made in the first place.
I can tell you why.
Photorealistic. Money,
because
like,
well, yeah. I mean, this is it. Like, it's a business, and the way I've seen these Disney remakes, because Cinderella, like, I thought it was very good.
Cinderella was good.
It wasn't like a juggernaut box office sensation. I'm pretty sure it made money, but it wasn't. It wasn't like this Avengers film just made a bit 1.5 billion. We've got to do more.
Was Cinderella good because Lily James was very good?
It's good because you had a director that wanted to make a Cinderella film.
And the director, I was
Kenneth Branagh, it's Shakespeare, it's a fairy tale.
It makes sense.
You had King of the North, Rob Stark playing Prince Charming. It was low key enough that felt like a production. And then I would say it all changed. I mean, I don't count Maleficent because that was years before, and we're doing a villain. That was an Angelina Jolie film, not a Disney live action remake, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and then you've got
change of Jungle Book.
You've got Jungle Book, you've got Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. I completely forgot that was made. Mulan
made a billion as well.
Mulan
made a billion.
Mulan
but this is it, right? I mean, if we sort of dive in very quickly, the Jungle Book, Jon Favreau has made it, right? And I think what Mandalorian has proven is Jon Favreau's done Marvel stuff. He's been very inventive with technologies, and the technology that he was pushing forward and creating for the Jungle Book was then moved forward to make the volume, which is what all these studios use now. I think the Jungle Book was 1,000,000% this director wants to do an adaptation of the Jungle Book. Now, the Disney Jungle Book specifically, not the old Rudyard Kipling book, which there's been a lot of adaptations of. And Andy Serkis had one in production at the exact same time, which didn't turn out too well. But I think the moment they did the Jungle Book, and I remember in the credits, they had a warthog and they basically had a render of Timon and Pumbaa in the credits.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was on this review on this channel. It was around the time Civil War came out, 2016, I think. I remember saying, if this film makes money, they'll announce The Lion King tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. And I think the Jungle Book's been the one where it sort of broke it, saying, oh, we've just done Cinderella, we've done the Jungle Book, they did another one in between. Now we're going to do all of them. And I think logically, Beauty and the Beast was always one to do. Now, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I think Beauty and the Beast, they could have got away with doing, which they did. And because that made an insane amount of money, was it like 1.2 billion?
Yeah.
That was the one where I think once that one was out as well, they were sat in there thinking, okay, we've done Cinderella, we've done Jungle Book, Lion King is in production, Beauty and the Beast is hit, we're going to do more. And I think it's around this Disney Plus time as, hey, we can do more, we just have to put them in the cinemas. And it became quantity, not quality. Now, I know that some people don't like.
I was going to say, if they're going to go through all of them, there's some key decisions I feel like they'd make coming soon. I guess, well, keeping on the topic of this month, Dungeons and Dragons has done reasonably well this year. It's got quite a big fan base behind it.
Not financially, though. It's not
Fantasy's in. Would they go and do a Black Cauldron remake? Because the original film made no money, but it's become a cult favorite amongst Disney fans. Would they go all the way back? I know they've already had various different adaptations of Snow White. Like
they're doing it, aren't they? It's out next year.
Yeah, like how many of the original classics are they actually going to go through? Like, is it going to be all of them? Are they literally just going to clean in the entire lineup? Because they're already making Moana, which was a recent release, into one, which I find crazy that they're going back to that. And
I've got a list. I actually have right now a list of everything in production that's been. If we want to just chat comments, okay, so I'll go through
Yeah,
this.
go
It's
for it.
Cinderella 2015.
Well, hold on? Do we count Alice in Wonderland 2010?
It's on the list. It classifies.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, let's timeline it. So 102 Dalmatians was 2000, right? Which was a sequel to the great one from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was nothing till Alice in Wonderland in 2010.
Yeah.
Same year you had Sorcerer's Apprentice, which I don't think was like a live action remake.
No, it wasn't. No.
Then you get Maleficent 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Cinderella 2015.
Yeah.
Jungle Book 2016.
Yeah.
Alice Through the Looking Glass 2016. I think that one bombed. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it did bomb. I quite like that film though, which is more than
Beauty and the Beast
film.
2017. Again, Brett Records. Christopher Robin. I mean, I don't see that as a live action adaptation.
I don't see it. It isn't an adaptation. I guess it's an adaptation of the book, but they never made a Christopher Robin. They made The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, but they never made a Christopher Robin.
And then here we go, 2019, right? Dumbo. Aladdin.
Yeah, I forgot they had Dumbo.
The Lion King.
Yeah.
Maleficent 2. Lady and the Tramp. That's 5 in 1 year when it went from being annually. Mulan 2020 COVID. Cruella, I'll give Cruella credit.
Cruella was fantastic.
Cruella
is
one of the
good ones. Yeah.
And that doesn't feel like we're remaking it for the sake of remaking. That felt like
that's
there's a vision, there's a story. Even if it's a villain origin film like Maleficent,
it also
has
its own identity. The soundtrack and the costume department for that film is phenomenal. Like really, really.
It won Oscars.
Yeah.
And then you have Pinocchio last year, Peter Pan and Wendy this year, Little Mermaid this week, and then they've got another section for everything in production, which is as follows. So, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is due out next year.
Yeah.
Mufasa, the Lion King, is also due out next year, which is the prequel / maybe sequel. I can't remember if it's meant to be both or one. But somehow they got Barry Jenkins on board, which is crazy still. They got Barry Jenkins. Then, casting right now, we know, Lilo and Stitch, Hercules, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Sword in the Stone, Untitled Cruella sequel, Untitled Prince Anders film, Bambi, Robin Hood, The Aristocats, Moana. Now, I know a lot of these will never get made. A lot of these will just be that put someone to attach to it. But
I don't think they do Aristocats. That's one of them.
It's very, very sudden, right? This explosion of we're going from 1 a year to 5. And it will be that. I think Beauty and the Beast, I think now we've just gone through them. Beauty and the Beast, March 2017, and they got 5 films out in 2019. That is
that's get them out as fast as possible because we're making money here. And
combined with Disney Plus, Lady and the Tramp launched Disney Plus. It was very weird when I watched it. I didn't care for it. It was strange.
Was this was all under Chapek, wasn't it?
Well, it would have been a bit of combo. I think Chapek's responsible for a lot, not more being made, but his is the Disney Plus side of things, where when he took over from Iger, now there was, Disney Plus was going to happen regardless. Chapek was very much, I want streaming stuff for Disney Plus. Now Chapek's come back. Chapek's saying film needs to be for the big screen.
Yeah.
You've got to have films that come out. So I think Lilo and Stitch, I don't know how the earth are going to do Lilo and Stitch. I know they're casting it. I know that one of the actors dropped out recently, but how do you do Stitch in live action? I don't know. I don't want to know.
I don't want to know either.
But I think, the money Little Mermaid's made in America this weekend has been very high. Its international numbers have been not very low. The international numbers are not at the level that other international Disney films have hit off at. So I'm not saying it's going to bomb or anything like that. It's obviously going to make money, but it isn't going to be like Beauty and the Beast level money. It's going to make money, but this isn't going to get past the bill. This isn't going to. If I'm lucky, I'd say this will get like 800 mil absolute tops, which is it's $800 million is a lot of money. But Little Mermaid on that pedestal, right? You've got when we knew that you knew they were always going to do the Lion King, you knew they were always going to do Beauty and the Beast, you knew they'd always do Little Mermaid. I don't think there's a blatantly obvious one left, which is maybe a good thing long term that they might pipe it down. But to do Moana inside a decade of it coming out,
the obvious one in my head is Hunchback, but they won't do that because of the connotations behind it. I guess
they'll never do Pocahontas as well.
Not a chance.
That's not gonna, and that's why I feel they're limited. They said Hunchback when the time comes, and the sad thing is, a film like Hunchback of Notre Dame, if you had the right creative team in place,
just straight away cast Peter Capaldi as Frollo, and you've got yourself a film.
And this is like, would it be more enticing for not necessarily actors, but would it be more enticing as a pitch for a project before it became we're just doing all of them, saving all of them? Because the Jungle Book, I remember that cast was very wide. They're like Bill Murray, they had Christopher Waltz, but they had so many different people, Ben Kingsley, and that felt like these people wanted to play as characters. Whereas now, Beauty and the Beast, I also get a bar Emma. You know, you had Ewan McGregor, you had Ian McKellen. It still felt like a very big deal. Like, we're doing an adaptation of this one. I don't think they're going to get. I think now there's too many.
Tom Hanks playing Geppetto in Pinocchio,
and that was only because of Robert Zemeckis. Or was it because Robert Downey Jr. was linked to it for many years, and even he didn't do it? So, and also it was the worst one to be a part of. And it's weird, isn't it? It's such. I'm curious. The next 2 years are going to be very important to see what gets released and what doesn't, because I think the audiences are starting to not turn as such, but those figures drop.
Yeah,
and so do the projects, and I do think they'll drop to a point. I think audiences are far more selective now in what they're choosing to watch at the cinema compared to before. They'd watch everything.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. It's dare I say dark time for Disney, if that's kind of the trend they're going with and stuff like that. It feels like if they're going down that rabbit hole, then, you know, I mean, I'm not a fan of it. But then again, like, we could say the same for, you know, Marvel and kind of how they've approached.
Yeah, and they've had to change their approach already.
Yeah.
Star Wars going back to the big screen after not being there enough.
I think people, thankfully, after COVID, people are actually realizing that Christ, cinema is still alive and kicking, and cinema's worth it. You know, and thank God for Top Gun Maverick, dare I say, for injecting that back in.
The demographic. No Time to Die, Top Gun Maverick, two most popular films with the older demographic. Avatar, Way of Water.
I guess No Way Home as well has helped with that as well, being kind of the first big one on top of that. Films even like, what's it called? Super Mario Bros. Movie from this year has kind of injected new life in. Like, loads of films.
From Mario film.
Loads of films are, you know, pushing people to go back to the cinemas. I know a lot of people are very hyped about John Wick 4. I know a lot of people are really excited about all the films that are coming out this summer as well. There's a massive lineup of films coming out. So it will, you know, push people to go back to the cinemas, which is great. And that's kind of where films should be. There is a time and a place for, you know, films to be immediately released onto streaming. But realistically, if you can see the film on a big screen, that's where it's made to be.
Yeah. No, really interesting. And even Guardians, its box office is 730 mil.
I mean, do you at that point, do you categorize the streaming films as like TV movies from kind of the olden days?
Right. So my issue, and full credit to Apple. If anyone wants to follow much from Cannes, obviously with the trailer for Killers of the Flower Moon, which a lot of people are very excited for. Apple is committed to theatrically releasing films at the cinema. Then putting it on streaming sites. Air, the film about the Air Jordans that came out recently. Amazon were going to put it straight on Amazon Prime. They said, you know what, we'll give it 6 weeks to the cinema. Okay, it made, I think, maybe $50-70 million. I know Jeff Bezos doesn't need the money, but that's 70 million more than they would have had if it just went on Amazon Prime that weekend. So
same with what's it called? Glass Onion releasing cinemas.
And Netflix refused to release the numbers for it because they were clearly so embarrassed that their strategy of, hey, we'll do it for a week, then put it on. Yeah, Glass Onion was popular, but the first one made a lot of money. Everyone wanted to watch the second one. So it's to me, if a streaming film isn't being backed with a cinematic release, even if it's for a week, it's like straight to DVD, which is unfair on straight to DVD because they were normally there because of lack of budget rather than they're there to fill a tab on a streaming website. So it is a tricky one, isn't it? And I think it's sort of case by case. But for me, at least, if the studio is committed to releasing the films at a cinema, then putting it online, and I'll back that studio and what their decisions are. Because I'd rather watch the film on the big screen, even if it's crap.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Was there any other films you watched this month?
No, that was literally it today. I do want to watch Tropic Thunder, but I probably have to wait till the Blu-ray arrives next week.
That is fair. So,
my comments this month. Before we get to yours.
Yeah, go for it.
Mine says, good to have us back. Guys, it's a solid movie. Up the Arsenal. I know exactly. It's a very happy Coventry City fan. But sorry, Tayte, your films.
So, after the suggestion from last month, I went and watched Bodies, 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 start of the month,
Ooh.
and I really enjoyed it, actually. I get similar vibes from what was the film from It Follows? So kind of, like neon kind of vibes, decent soundtrack, kind of young people going around, it's like a murder mystery house. It's really, really good, very atmospheric and very, very modern. So I really enjoyed it. I followed that up with, I guess, another slasher film in the form of Scream 3, because I'm still going through the Scream films very, very slowly. I'm sure I'll get to Scream 6 by the time, it comes out on Blu-ray or something like that. I'll kind of eventually get around to it. This one I didn't like compared to the previous two. This is the one with the voice changer in it. I've heard famous things about this film and
Never seen them.
They're do you know what? They're very cheesy, for slasher films.
They've got big fans. The following on these films is massive as well.
Oh, big, 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 big. And I can understand it. It's a very easy entry into the genre, which I've quite liked, actually. It's kind of eased me in, where I've never been a massive fan of horror films. So having these kind of films where it's very cheesy, very corny, the deaths are very kind of well staged, shall we say, a lot of one-liners and everything like that. It's a nice entry into it. Then we've got a film which I guess is going to be my film of the month, not purely because of the fact that it came over a while ago. As people on the channel know, I'm a massive fan of skiing, and there are loads of skiing documentaries out there. Like if I was to I could recommend so many. I will probably recommend a lot in the future. But if there's one from this month that just really kind of films that stood out, was my yearly watch of Gnar. GNAR, which stands for, I need to bring this up because I want to get it right, Gaffney's Numerical Assessment of Radness. It's a documentary film where basically this group of people went onto this one mountain called Squaw Valley out in America, and they went and got the guidebook to the mountain, looked at the different routes they could do off-piste, and basically made their own set of rules for a weekend. Like, we're talking like calling your mum before going skiing, calling out different pros on the mountain, stuff like that, or skiing naked down these different runs. It's a funny film. It's a really, really good documentary about kind of the limits and extremes of crazy people on skis and stuff like that. It's free to watch online as well. I'm pretty sure it's on Vimeo. It's an hour, 10 minutes long, and it's a really, really funny documentary that talks about kind of this very small area of the skiing scene, if anyone's interested. And it mentions a lot about Shane McConkey, who's one of the best skiers of all time, so I would recommend it. Even if you don't know anything about skiing, this would make you interested in that skiing scene. So that was, that's my recommendation for the month, at least. And then I watched Guardians. Liked Guardians. Guardians has grown on me since I've watched it. I really want to watch it again and can't wait for it to be available, on Disney Plus or whenever it comes kind of onto home streaming and stuff like that. It's really settled with me, the fact that when I initially watched it, and I guess this is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it, so yeah, mute me or whatever, but I was expecting people to die. And I think I prepared myself for people to die, and I was a little bit disappointed that people didn't die, because I was like, oh, Marvel, once again, keeping characters alive, blah, 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 blah. But now it's settled on me. I'm much happier that, they've all got their own outs in various different ways. We don't have to see the characters again if we don't need to. They're always leaving the door open for them to come back, but at the same time, I'm completely okay with that, and the way that they were able to leave off those characters was fantastic.
I'm the same. Like, I don't know. What would you say caused that trend of it's the last one, people have to die? 'Cause it's not been something that's been around for like.
I guess it's finality. You want stakes. You don't want a trend to form where characters manage to get away, even when faced with like the worst of worst situations.
Is it a Marvel thing in the sense that because we know Marvel people would always come back,
but we knew characters were moving on, so we.
But this is it. Is this?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what was the because you go back to Return of the Jedi in '83. Harrison Ford is desperate for them to kill Han, but they still wouldn't. I'm trying to go back to franchises where it's the last one, we're all going to die, but it doesn't happen often. And part of me wonders is because with it's Marvel, we had them all die and they all came back to life for the next film.
Yeah,
Which I know is part of the story, but it seems to me it's a good question to have because I've been in that loads. This is the last one. Who's going to go? Who's going to die?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm curious. It's more of a question, I guess. Like, what film would have been the one that started? Like, even things like Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know it's a book. Okay, fine. Two of the Fellowship go in the first one, and then none of the others do in the third one.
Yeah.
And it's like if that was today, again, yes, it's a book, it's an adaptation. Everyone would be like, "Hey, who's gonna go at the end? Who's gonna sacrifice themselves to save the day?" And you think of Spider-Man films, they've never done it. Star Wars films, they've never really done it. They keep those, main trios.
The
bar
trios
Rogue One,
survive.
bar
Yeah.
Rogue One, which was the point of Rogue One. But
Yeah.
I'm the same as you because I thought Batista's gonna go. That was my one from day one. Batista and the trailer they were doing for the marketing for that as well. But
you all thought that Rocket was going to go. Maybe Chris Pratt was going to leave. Maybe Star-Lord was going to go. Like any one of those characters from the main group could have gone in that film.
And I think it shows how important writing is. That if you got a good write, because I'm convinced they're never coming back, and it's not because the cast has said it. I am convinced by the filmmaking, by the film.
It's that photo shot at the end that makes me think. Yeah. Well, one or two may come back, but they're never going to be seen. They're never going to be seen on screen again together.
Yeah, and that's in a really nice way. And not to shit on the Flash because it comes out in a few weeks and it can be done then. My only hope, because I know they've leaked one of the big cameos. I say leaked, the directors announced one of the big cameos this week, which will keep off the people that don't want it to be ruined because it would be a pretty cool if I don't know. My only goal is that none of the Dark Knight trilogy are in that. Why? Because the Dark Knight is a trilogy that has stayed within itself.
So
the cast have been very loyal to the director, and that's why I'm hoping none of them pop up in Flash. And they've never made any mistake. And I think Guardians is the first time I felt like that since. Obviously, Iron Man and Captain America, I do feel it's very final. Robert Downey Jr. will not come back, neither will Chris Evans. I don't think either of them are ever going to do it. But yeah, finality it's a very rare thing in film. I think for the franchise that never ends, it makes it harder, right?
Yeah. Unless they kind of have a finality kind of end goal thing, whether it's going to be a trilogy of like not even phases but sagas, and then they end it. They call it
Harry Potter. Sorry to ignore, but
I'll talk.
Definitely
about
Hallows. Definitely
Hallows kills off a decent amount of characters. They all live. The trio lives.
But I'm thinking was that because I remember even when the book came out, I just realized
who's going to die. Kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, but the book was like, we're actually going to go for like half of them, which they did.
Yeah,
fair enough. Sorry.
Anyway,
I know you're going to talk about.
So then I watched Dungeons and Dragons, and I wanted to come back to this point because I really enjoyed this film because it was batshit insane and didn't really have any rules to it. I really liked kind of the idea that you can have a film that is that kind of wild and to the wall, and it felt like you were on an actual adventure with them. And I really do hope they pick it up for another film. Even though it didn't make as much money as they wanted it to, there is a definite audience out there that wants to see it. And I know that a lot of people will be jumping onto this film in the future, knowing how good of reviews it's been given, even though it didn't make any money.
I'm with you. I would say they got the release date right. They released it. Was it February or March? Sorry,
March, yeah.
They didn't slap it in blockbuster season; it would have bombed. They gave it a very polite window for itself, and you said it's picked up a following. Now, the big question will be sequels, and then it comes down to will they finance a sequel for a film that hasn't necessarily made the money? It's not for me to guess, but what I would say in this point, at least it felt. I've seen behind the scenes. There's a lot of practical effects. They're shooting on location. They're creating these fantasy monsters to be put into this as well. Full credit to them. I said it didn't work for me. I'm not saying it's a bad film at all, ever. And that's what annoys me is when I'll happily say a certain film is bad, but I know the difference between. This sounds really arrogant. I know the difference between a film that I think is bad in terms of craft against a film that does not work for me. And there's a very fine line where people don't know where to go. And I think something else is just the genre is not for me. But I absolutely get why people have loved it, which is a big thing as well.
Yeah. So after Dungeons and Dragons, I went downstairs one day and I saw that on the TV my parents were 10 minutes into 1917. So I decided to sit down and watch the end of it. I think it was on BBC Two or something like that a few weeks ago, which I will still kind of call out and say what a phenomenal film that was. What an amazing kind of experience that was to be on set with that and just, be a part of the film. I've even got, I don't even know if I've shown this on screen before. I don't even know if I'm allowed to show this on screen before, but
Is
I've
it your
got,
NDA?
no, it's this. It's a patch from Devon Regiment, which I may or may not have required from the film, if people can see that.
They won't be.
I was
If
going
they're
to say,
watching.
if they're watching, come find me. But
Got a quick D&D comment for you.
Yeah, go for it.
I brought the kids to see Dungeons and Dragons. I thoroughly enjoyed it myself. I wasn't expecting to be honest, from mine. This is it. And I think it has that effect because on paper, and I'll say this, Dungeons and Dragons is a hard sell to be a film. And because it is, I mean, I've never played it, but I know you are the storytellers. There's no finite rules to following it, etc., etc., which kind of gives them creative licenses to make the film how they please. And I think they did a good job of that, at least as well. It didn't feel like the same thing I've seen a million times.
It could have, honestly, with that film, the only thing they could have done that would have been wrong was to do a standard kind of campaign and make it really bland. Whereas they just went, it feels like with the script, they genuinely played through a version of the game and just see where it went. And then just kind of tied it all together in a knot at the end. It genuinely felt like it was lived and played through, which is really cool. As far as that film was concerned. So a lot of kind of mirroring topics here between films you've watched this month, films I've watched this month. So I rewatched Little Mermaid, thinking in anticipation maybe I will go see the new film. And I mean, it's a classic. It's a great film. It's kind of what started, the Disney Renaissance and the revival and everything like that. There's an awful lot of filler in this film for an hour and a half long film. There's an awful lot of filler. It's got a lot of moments which kind of, slow down the pace of the film. A lot of moments that just don't click kind of nowadays and stuff like that. I find it really fascinating. It isn't, the smoothest ride of an hour and a half film, which makes me think even more, how on earth were they able to lengthen that out to a 2-hour 15 film, honestly? Because there's a decent amount of filler in the film anyway. There's nothing really you could blow out from the scenes, not even the musical numbers. Musical numbers are really well timed. I don't understand how they can blow out the film even further past the point of where it is at the moment. Some films you could blow out, okay, maybe you can get like 3 extra scenes thrown in, maybe totaling for about 15 minutes if possible, but 45 minutes is a whole other film. How on earth are they able to extend that? That's really kind of shocking. If anyone has seen, the two films, please kind of say, what is added.
I'm going to guess, because I've not watched the original so long, from the bit I saw, I'm going to assume they make Eric more of a character than just a standard, he's a prince. I would imagine it will be that.
45 minutes of he's more than just a prince. I mean, in the film, you find out he's a sailor. He's
you get all that. Yeah, they do loads of clips of that. Yeah.
He's always out there to save other people, so he's kind of noble. You get that all from like 5-10 minutes of screen time anyway, during the film. So, yeah.
Good comment from Martin. Extra 917. Yes. Do tell.
An entire summer spent in a chalk trench. That was 1917. It was great. The atmosphere on set was really good. There was about 600 of us soldiers in those trenches, and they built a half-mile trench out in the middle of nowhere on the Salisbury Plains. And a lot of the days we were just waiting to film kind of the going over the top scene, the forest scene, because they had to match the clouds from the previous scene. So they were waiting for the right clouds. I actually had a few really interesting chats on set. So I actually managed to meet Sam Mendes and have a chat with him about the film, which was really, really cool. And he was talking about kind of the weather, and it was really kind of an odd experience with him saying, we got to wait for the right clouds. We got a weather radar, we got people about 10 miles away, kind of feeding us information. We'll send that information down to production, and then they'll be able to put that through. It takes 1.5 hours to reset all of those practical explosives on that going over the top scene. So if we time it wrong, if suddenly midway through the shot, the sun peeks through, that's a wasted shot. That is an 1.5 hour reset, and however much they've spent on budget. we ended up doing 7 takes of that going over the top scene in total, and take number 2 was the one they chose in the end. And everyone kind of where I was in the trench saw him crash into 2 people and immediately thought, well, this is another reset. This is going to be another few hours kind of down here and stuff like that. So we were all surprised that they went with that one in the end. But I also I got to meet what's his face, so Roger Deacon as well, who was unreal to talk to, and talking about the cinematography put behind it and everything that, and he ended up winning the Oscar for that as well. So it was a really cool experience on set, and I mean, it'll live in my memory for a very long time. And it's like the one thing that I can kind of say, oh yeah, being in an Oscar-nominated film, Oscar-winning film. So that was my experience, Martin, on that set. Anyway, moving on to Black Adam.
Yeesh.
Yeesh. It all comes crashing down. Christ. He did not reset the order or whatever it was.
No.
Whatever.
So much so, he's now back in Fast and Furious.
Yeah. He didn't change the pecking order of the DCEU. God, that film's grim.
Bar Pierce Brosnan.
It was, yeah, Bar Pierce Brosnan. It was boring, kind of misguided, just not even good acting from anyone really in general. The Rock wasn't that good in the film. Like, it's just a massive ego trip, isn't it? The entire film. But saying that, it's not the worst film I've seen this month. And this is why I'm wearing this today. So for those who don't know, I'm a massive Patriots fan. Have been for years now. And this year, there is a film that's out called 80 for Brady, which is all about these 80-year-olds who went to the famous 2017 Super Bowl. It's got a good cast as well. It's really unusual. So it's got Jane Fonda in it. It's got Rita Moreno. It's got Sally Field. It's got Lily Tomlin. You look at that cast and you go, wow, okay, that's a great cast. God, it has them twerking in the film. Like, it has them pretending to be cheerleaders. It's got some awful acting from various different sports people. And I know it's really interesting. If you watch American ads, they get a lot of their sports people to do those ads, and they're actually good at acting because they're kind of trained to be spokespeople for different brands and stuff like that. And also at the same time, they can go into like TV shows as cameos. They can go in as, I know LeBron James was in Trainwreck, wasn't he? I mean, he did Space Jam Legacy too, but that was grim. But you see all these American sports stars doing adverts and stuff like that. They do have decent acting training and stuff like that. But for this was awful. This was not good. And you know, it's the worst film I've seen this year. Yeah, it is a new release as well. If you're a Patriots fan, you can get some solace from the fact that the game itself was phenomenal. Like, if you wanted to watch the game highlights again of that game, it will live forever as kind of the biggest choke that a sports team has ever done, being 28-3 up with like what would be 15 minutes to go, and then losing the entire game, which is insane. But yeah, no, that film was grim. Had you heard of it?
I was very aware of this film when it came out. I don't know much about NFL. I can tell you names. I can tell you other people.
I mean, everyone knows Tom Brady. He is like the most famous American footballer of all time. So
exactly. And when this film, I believe in America, it came out literally just before the Super Bowl because his team could have got there. I know they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't.
And I know he's retired again. But yeah, this film was a bit of a meme when it came out in the States. And over here, I don't know if did it get a release here? It probably did. It was probably after the Super Bowl. It was probably very limited. But it's a film that sort of begged the question, like, how was this made? Yeah.
It's awful. If you want to watch a terrible film this month, go watch 80 for Brady. Just to see how bad films could be, especially with some, you know, all-time kind of star actors in there. You got Rita Moreno going from West Side Story a few years ago to this. That's you know, that's awful. George has left me as well, so I guess this gives me a good time slot to talk about Eurovision, the story of Fire Saga. I want to know in the comments as well if anyone actually watched Eurovision this year, because it was an interesting result in the end. I know there's a lot of discussion online between Finland and Sweden about winning the competition, and I'm sure that George has no idea what I'm talking about if I said that. I'm talking Eurovision because
I've not seen that film, but
Have you not?
I heard it was okay. And the
Do you
thing
know
I
what?
also heard a lot was the Americans didn't know Eurovision was real until that film came out.
Yeah, first time I watched it, I hated it, and that's because I do like Eurovision. I do watch Eurovision every single year. I take it as a drinking game every single year, and I have so much fun with it, with kind of the cheesy Euro pop, some decent songs thrown in there, always wacky performances, always amazing commentary from Graham Norton. And the film I hated. On second watch of the film, I kind of went in knowing that it's a goofy film, and it's got to be okay that it is a stupid, goofy film. I really enjoyed the stupid, goofy film that it was. It makes no sense at all. There's an awful lot of humor at the expense of others, which I am a fan of, and it's so dumb yet so funny. It's actually good. Like that's I don't know if I was drunk already when watching it or not, but it was a fun watch. I got a kick out of it. There's one scene in the middle though that I still can't get over, which is like they call it a sing along or a song along, where they just go into a very weird like I don't even know how to describe it, like medley of songs. Some of them aren't even Eurovision songs. They got like some Black Eyed Peas in there or something. It just makes no sense. The rest of the film's hilarious. It's got Dan Stevens in it playing.
I was going to say, I know he's in it, isn't he? I've seen clips of him in it.
He sings a song called "Lion of Love," and he's 100% gay, but they don't even like question it in the film. Like they try and put it out there as that, but it is one of the campest performances you'll ever see from him, and it's phenomenal. It's really really funny. It's a great film.
Man, watched the first reaction, came back for the vote, which was very exciting. I don't watch it, so I know what happens. No, I know what happened. I think when I was younger, I used to watch it because I always remember it was always, I don't want to say political, I don't want to get that, but when you're younger, it used to be Terry Wogan. I used to watch it. That's probably showing my age.
Oh wow, Christ, yeah, that is showing my age.
Martin Barrett saw Black Adam with the kids. I thought it was terrible. Yeah.
Did the kids even enjoy it?
What else have you seen post Eurovision?
Mission Impossible, which once again is a brilliant spy film. I think I forgot how seeing kind of where the franchise is. I think I forgot how much of a spy film and little of an action film the first one is, because the films do become kind of more based around the action as they go further on. But this first film is a full-on espionage film, and I really enjoyed it for that.
Just wait till you get to rewatch 2.
Wait till I get to rewatch 2. Is that where it becomes like full-on, like It's John Woo, isn't it? Is it John Woo?
Yeah.
How many dove shots are there?
Well, this is it. Like I was listening to the soundtrack earlier. I talked about the room where we recorded it, but even the soundtrack album has doves in the fire.
Oh my god!
Yeah, the second one, that was an experience rewatching that, but it's the whiplash from the first one. Because the first one has like no gunshots or some. No, I believe there's only like a gun fired once, which is the not Martin Sheen, the John Voight thing. And the second one's like, we watched The Matrix last year. Black trench coat, sunglasses, motorbikes. Let's go. Yeah, very different. And then the third one's like the soft reboot, where they sort of end up where they are now, I guess, right?
Yeah, I like the third one. If I remember, the third one was my favorite until Fallout. So.
What? And I'd forgotten that when I was watching Magnolia, Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it as well. So him and Tom Cruise got scenes together. I was like, oh shit, it's like a prelude to Mission Impossible. Obviously, it's not, but yeah,
exactly.
Kids struggled with Black Adam too.
Finish off the month. I've got one other film towards the end of the month, which is Spider-Verse. I'll come back to Spider-Verse in a second. So, I'll be working later this week, which means that when I come in, I usually kind of grab food and then go straight to bed. But every single time I came back in this week, there was a new Harry Potter film coming onto my TV, because Harry Potter films are now on Netflix. All the Harry Potter films are on Netflix, and as far as kind of, you can go with controversy with the franchise, and you kind of put it between the production team and what J.K. Rowling's doing with her end and stuff like that. you're able to separate those two things and still enjoy the films. You can enjoy the films, you know, have all that going on and stuff like that, and still at the same time criticize the person who made the films possible in the first place by making the material. And some of the comments that she makes, which is not only kind of completely out of line, but completely psychotic in this modern era, that you would have that kind of opinion in the first place.
And the casts have called it out. Like these
cast have
people
called it out,
whose lives, that, if anyone hasn't read it, the Daniel Radcliffe open letter is really worth reading. And like not sort of do the whole child acting thing, but to see how normal the cast, the kids came out from these series compared to how American young actors are treated in the States, different laws, everything like their working laws for young actors, etc., etc., etc. That's a miracle within itself, because they're not. I mean, they've all had issues still to a point, I guess we can say, but like overall, seeing how that cast have come out, and that's also why like I've still got my films. Like I haven't watched them for a while, but I'm in that mindset. Like, it must be equally as hard for these guys who know their careers are down to that. These guys who represent people, and then they've got this that's, you know, not from their past. It's helped shape their life. You know, they all grew up together. They were at school together when they were filming them. I did see this on Netflix, and I saw that Netflix conveniently, 8 of their top 10 are all Harry Potters, right? But this is why I never believe the Netflix top 10
This is also
right?
the really funny thing.
It's in order. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think
not a chance.
Not to like say, oh, people aren't watching them. Like, I've always said that Netflix top rankings has always been, they always plug the Netflix originals to the top. Only to have an Apple where I've seen like Apple push a new film out and it's nowhere near the top. They've got something from 6 months ago. And I'm just saying, every time Netflix do an original thing, it's always number one. It's like they would have paid big money for those Harry Potter rights.
But they don't even say like
put them 1 to 8.
They don't say top 10 viewed. They just say top
most
10.
popular.
Most popular. But that could mean, and it's like, these are some of the most popular films, and they could get away with that. And by putting it in order as well, it's just like, oh, come off it.
It's too obvious.
Like,
really, like, has everyone gone and watched? I almost said Phantom Menace then. Yeah, like, is everyone doing it in order? Because I think some people
come in at Azkaban.
Kind of 1 to 8, yeah.
People come in at Azkaban.
Or they come in at Goblet of Fire is a pretty popular because it gets Voldemort onwards, doesn't it?
Yeah, like people don't come in before then. Like,
and for everyone to be doing it that way is everyone.
Chamber of Secrets is not the most popular film out of all of those, and yet it's number 2. Not a chance. But I ended up not watching Philosopher's Stone, so I'm not kind of adding into that statistic. I ended up coming in for 2, 3, and 4. And I find it so interesting that all 3 of those films are some of the wildest kind of shifts in direction between all of the films. You've got 2, which is kind of directed in a similar style to the first film. Then you got 3, which is Alfonso Cuarón coming in and completely changing the way the films were made, the way it's directed, everything around it. And then you got Goblet of Fire, which is, it's probably the most action filmy before it gets to the end. Kind of like, it's really kind of, it changes everything about it. The way it's done and kind of the stakes, and kind of has a very dark ending to it as well. So it's so wild watching just those 3 films without any context outside of that. And, you know, I don't know if I'm tempted to continue it on or not. I mean, it's been a while since I watched through all the Harry Potter films. Would have been like the first Fantastic Beasts that I watched through all of them. But at the same time, like, you know, they are good films. They are part of my childhood and stuff like that. I really enjoyed watching them when I was younger. I really enjoyed reading through the books when I was younger, and you can kind of have that in there and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really interesting.
I'll show you my box set. I picked up the 4K Steelbook box set last year, and it's like each one is like a prop on the front. It's a really nice box set, and I'm just there like, oh, they're on Netflix now. I mean, I'd still rather own it physical media, but
yeah. Exactly. And then I guess this is going to be the big talking point, because this kind of leads into the next month straight away. We are less than a week away from, you know, Across the Spider-Verse, and kind of rewatching the first film and kind of getting that context. I'm still in shock. I mean, I want to just add, I telegraphed this a while ago, and I'm very happy that I telegraphed this a while ago, that when the first trailer came out for Into the Spider-Verse, I think I put it on our Cinema Savvy group chat. I was like, this film's going to be different. This film's going to be very good. And I don't think it was on many people's radar because, you know, Sony Picture Animations hadn't done anything major in the past. They weren't, you know, kind of sealing themselves out in the animation game and stuff like that. Everyone was talking about Pixar, DreamWorks, you know, the big kind of the big ones kind of coming out and heavy hitting, Disney included. Even Illumination was still getting kind of a decent iron and stuff like that for some of the films they were making. But this film changed animation forever. This film is currently changing animation forever because every single film wants to replicate and copy what this film did. It knocked all the big studios
and
off
live
their
action,
perch. And live action as well,
because they went and did No Way Home.
Exactly. This film may be one of the most influential films of like the previous decade. Like, we look down the line, it's going to be kind of historically named as one of the greatest films of its era. Like, it's so well put together. It's so amazing to watch. It's well acted with the voicing. It's a very, very solid story. It has a beautiful arc in it. It's filled with twists, turns, comedy, humor, everything. And I'll be perfectly honest, I am so hyped for the sequel. I am so hyped for the next film. I'm really intrigued to see which direction they take it in. From the trailers, what I've seen so far, it seems to be a really interesting premise, and we'll see how it pans out, especially if they want to make it into a trilogy. I know that it was originally called Across Spider-Verse Part 1, and now they're going to change the name of the film coming off the back of it. But no, I'm so excited for this new film to be coming out. I want to see where the characters take it. I want to see kind of what route it takes. I feel like this film's going to be very dark. I'm getting Empire vibes from this from the off. So
I'm
we'll see.
The trailer. It's very hard for me to avoid trailers. Now I had avoided this till I saw it at the cinema a few weeks ago. And that's when you accept you're going to see it. And the new Barbie trailer I watched yesterday, and it was at the cinema today actually. Spider-Verse hits differently because I remember when it came out, 2020. I moved and I was back for
Was it
Christmas.
2018 or 2019? Yeah.
2018, because it was around the time of Mary Poppins, Bumblebee, Aquaman, and Spider-Verse. And there was an MCM Comic Con in the October. Ironically, it's this weekend for the current one. And the cast were there, and I was like, why are they doing an animated Spider-Man film? Who cares? And I was very much like Tobey Maguire mindset, right? Like, bring back Tobey Maguire. And obviously, I'd read comics, I knew Miles Morales. Obviously, the PlayStation game had just come out, so Spider-Man's getting big everywhere again. And loads of people saying, like, oh, there's a lot of homages to the Raimi-verse with the Spider-Verse. That's not why I watched it, but I did watch it, and I was gobsmacked at how good. And also, Olivier Giroud, for some reason, was the voice of the Green Goblin in the French version. And I still remember crying in the cinema when Uncle Aaron gets shot. I don't know why I was crying so much. Like, I've obviously not been through that. And I was just there, like, even with the opening scene, it was like, I mean, I grew up reading comics. It was like a live action adaptation of a comic book. And I'm not saying that in the concept of, oh, it came to life. I mean, like, that was like the art from the panels, but being animated 24/7. Yeah. And it wasn't like cheap animation that hurt. It wasn't crap animation. It wasn't awful voice acting. It was perfect. And what I was reading, the numbers they're tracking for the new one, I know it's not about box office, etc., but the popularity of that film has grown substantially since it came out. Massively. They're talking about the opening being 3 times bigger than 2018, which is remarkable for a superhero thing, let alone Spider-Man, a superhero thing. And one thing, I don't like bragging, and this might count. One of the big things, the first one was they did some Air Jordan Origins shoes that were basically just normal Air Jordans, but they had the white Spider-Man, like, you know, the Tobey Maguire suit. It's got like the gel on it, hasn't it? Yeah. They did those, and I was never able to get them, and they ended up going for like £600-700 on like StockX and websites like that. And then they announced some Jordans for the new one. So they've done some across the Spider-Verse Air Jordan ones. And if anyone's seen, you know, Last Dance, I know Air's come out. Oh God, what was the really good documentary from London Film Festival? One Man in the Shoes. I believe the sneaker term is copped, but I managed to get a pair of the new Spider-Verse Air Jordans. So I'm going to wear them on Thursday. I probably can't pull them off in the sense, you know, I mean, it's going to be animated film, but certain people are better at pulling off Jordans than others, and I am a normal white person, so I'm not going to be that good at doing it. But I'm hyped for this because not that I don't care about the story. I want to go into it knowing as I can. I know there's a lot of Spider-Men, Spider-Women too. I know there's like over 200 types. I doubt they'll all be named. Obviously, you got scenes in the trailers, them all pointing. this could be. I don't want to compare it to Toy Story because that's unfair, but I was thinking this earlier. It's like if they do this part 1 and part 2, because I think is it part 2 next year? Is it due? Is it like I can't remember.
Yeah,
Or
I
the
want to say they animated. Did they animate it back to back just so they'd be able to release
I
it
don't
back to back
know.
summer as well?
You'd hope so. Well, I say hope so. I mean, the art comes first, but it does make me think that if they get this solid trilogy of films, would there have been animation wise? I think animation needs it, right? And I think it says it all where it's become the trendsetter. People want their films to be like Spider-Verse now.
So
Not all.
Is it called Beyond the Spider-Verse, the final one?
I think whether it is the final one, we'll never know. But it does feel like it should be a trilogy. But it's just one of them where, like rewatching the first one last week, I know I was a bit early, but I really wanted to rewatch it. It's got such a good soundtrack, and it's just everything about it works. It's not been done. Sony wanted to animate a Spider-Man film. It isn't that at all. It is like there's been an approach. Peter Ramsey, who's director of it, who's now gone on to do The Mandalorian, who's doing live action stuff, and Dave Filoni spoke really well about him that he would love to get him to do live action because he's so good at doing animation as well. It's really exciting what's sort of blossomed from that first film, and even the lead actor, I can't remember his name, is it Shmeek Moore? I need to double check. He did a film Dope with Rick Famuyiwa, which is really good. A couple of years old now, but it's really exciting seeing some of the cast coming together and seeing how their careers have sort of blown up since then and from then. And it's, like to give it a June release, like Pixar's scared of Spider-Verse. It's not the other way around. Like normally studios scared of Disney animated. Spider-Verse is going to wipe the floor. And I know that Thursday they call it the official preview. I know the official release is Friday.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see it. I'll be there Thursday, 7:30 IMAX with a group of friends, the ones we always go to the Spider-Man films with.
Yeah.
And I'm going to somehow figure out an outfit for these to look good. I mean, I'm still surprised I even got this because people flip shoes for ridiculous prices.
Yeah.
And I need to figure out how to lace them. So that's
sadly for me, I have to wait until Saturday because of work. So I'm going to be, piped up and, hoping that it doesn't get spoiled for me before I'm able to watch it. But yeah,
I mean, what we both know is that we will have a spoiler discussion on it.
Yeah,
it's a big release.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a solo spoiler free on the day, but there is fundamentally we're gonna have a proper chat. I think we haven't booked it, but I think next weekend.
Yeah,
and end of the weekend, give you a chance to watch. We'll probably try and get some more people on as well because it's a big film. We want to get people that enjoy it, and I think I might end up seeing it multiple times. If I'm being completely honest. I'd like to see. I want to see it more than once. I saw the first one again. I've seen it a few times. That was one of the first ever 4K films I picked up actually. But yeah, Spider-Verse. Like, I'm glad we both rewatched it because I did make it the thumbnail, and I was like, by the end of June, it'll probably be Indiana Jones for June because it's the end of the month. So we put something most likely recently. But yeah, like the thumbnail with Miles Morales looks sick as well, and they've just had the Spider-Man 2 gameplay trailer, for which is coming out apparently fall 2023.
Interesting. But no, that was all the films I had seen for this month, so that's me done.
Excellent. And that's me. I mean, listen, we've been going almost an hour and a half, so I guess it's a blessing there's just two of us this week. We had a pretty deep chat about Disney live action. And maybe by the time next month we'll have a Little Mermaid. We might have both seen it properly, who knows. Martin's been summoned to watch an episode. Thank you for tuning in as always, Martin. It's always a pleasure to get your comments as well. But aside from that, as I said, this is our monthly stream. So if you're not watching it live, do not hesitate. You can still let us know what you watched, what your thoughts are on some of the films. We'd like people to get involved with us. When we're live, we can talk to whoever's in the chat. When we're not, we're still going to look at the comments that do come through. And if you do like this video, as we said, we do these monthly. It's a very chilled out stream. It's not designed for us to do homework. We don't watch films to say, at the end of the month, I can now say I've seen X, Y, and Z. We watch what we watch. We like to get guests on. We like to get other people on. If you've got any suggestions, you're more than welcome to comment them on as well to see who you think would be a good fit for these streams. Because again, they're different. They're chilled. Just people talking films, having a nice live stream. We don't get to do them too often anymore. So it's nice to get these constant.
It's just a nice chat about films, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I mean, we do tangents and stuff like that about films that we
takes the pressure off doing. I don't want to do a review for a film I dislike.
No, of course not.
Like when I saw Renfield, I mean, I didn't mind doing the Mario because Mario is a big film. Paper should have reviewed. I was like, I don't want to do both. They even say, how could I have done a review on Little Mermaid for walking after 45 minutes? The answer is no, I'm not going to.
Exactly. How can we do a review on 80 for Brady?
Yeah, exactly. And it's easy to bring these up because, you get to boss it with the other ones, like all these Tom Cruise films. I'm sure There's a few more. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a couple of the big ones left to do still. But the goal is to have. I was on my Letterboxd. Apparently, of all the actors I've watched the most in my life, Sam Jackson's number 1. I've seen 36 films of his.
Really?
Tom Cruise is number 2 with 28. I mean, on paper, everyone's is probably
Yeah.
Sam Jackson because of Marvel plus Star Wars plus him being Sam Jackson.
Yeah, makes sense.
But the Letterboxd stats page is a good fun if anyone doesn't have that. But also, as we said, do subscribe. There's a lot of reviews happening. We've got Spider-Verse next week. We've got Succession tomorrow night. Mission Impossible on Tuesday. Ted Lasso we both watched. We've not mentioned it till now, but there will be a Ted Lasso review. We'll just say TBC because the episode drops on Wednesday. And it's a very busy week of stuff happening. So Ted Lasso season 3 also finishes the same time. Final season of Succession, final season of Ted Lasso. Barry finishes tonight, which I've heard amazing stuff about, but I've just never got.
I've been watching through Barry, and I am not up to date. I think I'm 3 or 4 episodes behind at the moment. So
you'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
And listen, so anybody watching at home, if you want to find out about other videos, things you have coming up when we announce time, stream, stuff like that, get us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Link to Redbubble if you do want to pick up any merch to support the channel. Aside from that, I don't know what else to say. Have I missed anything? Have we missed something?
No, I think that's it. We've got a few things coming up on the horizon over the next week, and we're going to have loads and loads and loads of films coming out this blockbuster season. Go and watch our blockbuster video if you want to have a look at all the things we're looking at. Do check
that. There's a lot of big films. June's a big month. As I said, starting with Spider-Verse, ending with Indiana Jones. You've got stuff like Transformers in between as well. It's going to be a big one. And like I said, we'll have reviews as and when we announce them, as and when we can too. So once again, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.